Well, good day, everyone, and welcome to another beautiful Cape Cod day. This is Doug Fagan, your volunteer reader, coming to you today, as always, from the studios of the Audible Local Ledger here in Mashpee, Massachusetts. As I said, we've got a wonderfully beautiful day today, and let's now take a look at the weather, not only for today, but throughout the week here on the South Shore and on lovely Cape Cod. Today we're going to have a high close to 80, 79 to 80 degrees, mostly sunny, a bit breezy, and very pleasant. Tonight we're going to have a full moon, a moonlit sky with few clouds, and an overnight low of 62 degrees. Seems like summer again, although there are times it feels like there's a fall nip in the air. But the rest of the week, we're going to have summer temperatures at least. Wednesday and Thursday will have highs respectively of 79 and 81 degrees with sunshine. That'll be very, very nice. Although Thursday, it starts to get a little humid as it gets up to 81 degrees. Now, the weekend, Friday and Saturday, unfortunately, where the weather changes a bit, we have a high on Friday of 80 degrees, but mostly cloudy and humid. An overnight low then on Friday of 66 degrees. Now, Saturday, here comes some rain. A little morning rain, maybe not too much, mostly cloudy all day, and again, the humidity continues Thursday through Saturday. So don't turn off those air conditioners yet, folks. We still have some humid air in the forecast. Looking at highs today along the South Shore, we have a high in Plymouth today of 78, same with Wareham and Buzzards Bay. Crossing the canal into Sandwich, 78 there, the same in Falmouth, 77, Mashpee, 77, Barnstable, 80, Hyannis, 80, Dennis, 80. Moving out to the elbow of the Cape at Chatham, 79 degrees there, 80 in Brewster, 79 in Eastham, 79 in Truro, and a few degrees cooler at 77 out at Race Point Light in Provincetown. Nice day to go swimming at the beach. Cape Cod Bay temperature today, 68 degrees with minimal wave heights of 1 to 2 feet. In Nantucket Sound, where the water's going to be a bit warmer, it will be 75 degrees, wave heights 2 to 4 feet. So a good day, friends, to go out to the beach, enjoy a little salt water and lots of sunshine. Moving out to the islands. Closely at Martha's Vineyard, we have 76 degrees at Edgartown and 77 where you land at Oak Bluffs on the ferry. Moving over to Nantucket, a little further east, we have 78 at Nantucket Village and the same 78 degrees at Secaucet. Sunshine, bright sunshine out there on the islands as well. So maybe pick up a sandwich, take a cooler with some drinks, a nice book, a blanket, and a chair. Head to the beach, my friends. It's going to be a beautiful day for all of that. All right, now let's move on to page 1 of today's edition for the Tuesday, August 25th, Cape Cod Times. Leading off on page 1 today, we have a retro picture back to this past Saturday. It shows Amanda Henry and Hannah Ashley as they make jerk chicken during Saturday's festival. The two were grilling chicken for Backyard Jerk and Pastry Company. The inaugural Cape Cod Jerk Fest was held on the Hyannis Village Green on August 22nd, 3 days ago. The event was a celebration of Caribbean culture with authentic jerk food, music, dance, and other vendors. So maybe if you live in that area or had the chance, could have taken a trip over there, maybe enjoyed the Jerk Fest Festival. All right, now looking at the headlines on page 1, the first headline and the major one, it says this: Trapped Teen prompts beach safety warning. And under that's a picture, and under the picture it says, on August 18th around 4 p.m., the Sandwich Fire Department helped free an 18-year-old man who was trapped in sand up to his chest at Scusset Beach. The man was freed and was not seriously injured. However, the fire chief cautions when digging deeper holes, be aware. This article is by Rachel Devaney of the Cape Cod Times Network, and here it is. A local fire chief's urging that Cape Codders exercise caution when playing at the beach after a beachgoer's hobby of digging cavernous holes in the sand nearly turned deadly. On August 18th at Scott's Beach in Sandwich, an 18-year-old man found himself buried up to his mid-chest in the sand and was thus unable to free himself, that according to a fire department press release. Fire Chief John Burke told the Times on August 20 that the teen said that he likes to dig holes at the beach. Obviously so. This one was especially deep, and he sat in it and started to cave in around him. At that point, he could not get out, said Burke. It took about 25 first responders to secure the hole that the victim was in, that again, according to the Sandwich Fire Department press release. It was certainly an interesting call, with luckily a good outcome, said Chief Burke. Now, beach safety. Well, 1 to 2 foot holes are common at the beach with young children, said Burke. But when people dig deeper holes, the sand can cave in continuously as a person tries to dig out, he said. A rule of thumb, according to research, is to keep beach holes as deep as the knee height of the shortest person in the group, that according to the National Park Service. Digging tunnels, according to coastal research, in the sand can also be hazardous. When people dig down into the sand, according to a weather website, the sand loosens up and people run the risk of being trapped in the ditch. It really becomes down to the depth and length of the hole, said Chief Burke in the August 20 email to the Times. So why do sand holes collapse? Well, wet sand holds shape due to water between the grains, but as it dries, it can collapse under its own weight, that according to the National Park Service. Death from a collapsing sand hole is actually more common than death from a shark attack, that according to coastal research. So what to do if you become trapped? Well, the most important thing to do if a person becomes stuck in a sand hole is to call emergency services. Now, that may be tough to do if your phone was in your pocket or at your beach chair and you're covered in sand. However, hopefully somebody will be nearby that can make that call. The person trapped in the sand should stay as calm as possible, according to a safety website, and breathe slowly to conserve energy. A trapped person should try to protect their face, nose, mouth, and eyes so they can breathe. Bystanders should not move close to the area because the weight can cause more sand to fall on top of the victim. So, general beach safety tips. When Cape Cod National Seashore asks Cape residents and visitors to follow lifeguards' instructions and to avoid climbing dunes or slopes, which can also be unstable. That's a good suggestion to follow. So, friends, if you're on the beach and you think it's a great idea to dig in the sand and bury yourself, remember the hole should only be as deep as the smallest person in the group. Otherwise, you risk being covered over and potential death. Now, that would not be a good thing to happen on a beach outing. All right, moving on. The headline for this next article on page 1 says, Push for Housing Review Revives Opposition. Yarmouth trying to bring affordable rentals to Forest Road. This article is written by Susan Vaughn of the Cape Cod Times Network. And here's the article. After several failed attempts over 35 years, the Yarmouth Housing Authority is once again trying to develop affordable rental housing in a wooded site at 506 Forest Road behind the Yarmouth Senior Center in West Yarmouth. The authority is requesting bids for proposals by September the 16th from developers to design, construct, operate, and manage affordable rental units with no more than 90 bedrooms on the 18.89-acre site according to the legal notices published on August 2nd in the Cape Cod Times and the Massachusetts Central Register on July 22nd. Similar requests for developer proposals posted in May of 2025 received no bidders. Opposition to this proposal has already started from local groups. The Forest Road property is restricted to affordable housing under a state housing office lien. However, housing authorities operate under the Massachusetts Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities and are responsible for administering both state-funded and federally funded public housing programs. The 5-member Yarmouth Authority Board voted on May 26 to allow the Land for Affordable Housing Rental Family Housing, the RFP, notice states. The authority intends to enter into a land disposition agreement and a 99-year ground lease with the selected developer, with affordability restrictions, so states the proposal. So what would the West Yarmouth housing development look like? Well, the authority's request for proposals calls for a development to be designed for a variety of households, including all ages, families with children, people with disabilities, and service veterans. It lists a preference for 100% rental affordable at or below 100% area median income and a large range of incomes between 30% AMI and 100% AMI, with 10% of units with 3 bedrooms. So, better suited to conservation? Well, the most recent formal objection came from the Association to Preserve Cape Cod director, the executive director, Andrew Gottlieb, who sent a letter on August 11 to Housing Authority Executive Director Wendy Olson. He requested that the RFP be withdrawn for several reasons. Quote, "This parcel is environmentally sensitive, possesses several priority natural resource criteria, and is better suited to conservation than development," so said Gottlieb. He also sent the letter to the Yarmouth Select Board and the town. He also sent the letter to others as well, including the town administrator, saying the association is also aware of significant efforts from the town to find alternative locations for housing development and to prioritize this particular parcel for conservation protective. The Association to Preserve Cape Cod sees great potential and value in avoiding another needless fight between environmental interest and housing advocates, so said the letter from Gottlieb. Gottlieb encouraged the authority to withdraw the RFP to work with the towns and conservation organizations to permanently protect 506 Forest Road. So the housing proposal is to appear on the August 25th Select Board agenda. Yarmouth Select Board member Mark Forrest has requested the authority issue be put on the board's August 25 meeting agenda, even though the board has limited authority over the state-run agency. In a phone call on August 19th, he said he will ask the board to express its opposition to the latest authority proposal, as it has done in the past, and to engage legal counsel as well. Forrest called the authority's continual attempt to develop the Forest Road site as totally counterproductive, as it goes against large community opposition. He said several overtures to the authority from the town to find a solution have gone nowhere. So what would this proposal for the housing project have to do with Yarmouth drinking water? Well, the committee also notes that the authority parcel sits within a Zone 2 wellhead protection area, the site mapped zone that feeds public drinking water wells. The Yarmouth Water Department took well number 10 on Forest Road offline in January of 2022 because of levels of PFAS above the drinking water standard as it investigated steps to address the problem. Water Department officials could not be reached for comment on the current status of the well and various water issues that may exist in that area. Yarmouth has voted against affordable housing on Forest Road for years. A special town meeting in October of 2011 voted to transfer land of equal value to the authority site, but the votes were later ruled not legally binding. In an April of 2021 town meeting, a vote to rescind an authorization on affordable housing and family rental housing passed for the property, and a 2013 town meeting rescinded a previously approved $1 million in Community Preservation Act funds. The Housing Authority outlines its own history in its latest RFP in the Central Register dating to 1989, when the town transferred the land to the authority. The first 30-unit state-funded plan died when the state canceled funding in 1991. Then, in 2009, town meeting approved 40 units for elderly people and 31 units of family housing on the Forest Road site. Again, that was in 2009. Then in May of 2022, a due diligence assessment of the property was completed for the Housing Authority by Bowler Engineering of Boston. Initial findings said utilities, including storm drain, water, gas, and telecom, are available on both Old Townhouse Road and Forest Road, and that the site would need a Title V septic system. In 2023, development plan for 49 non-age restricted units was presented at an information forum in August. That year, in 2023, was also met with resistance from nearby residents. They spoke of fears that the project would result in torn trees and worsen flooding and water table issues. That, according to Times reporting at that particular period. A current Friends of Yarmouth Facebook page also has posted many comments opposing the recent Housing Authority plan. Housing Authority Executive Director Wendy Olson did not respond to phone calls about the proposed project. Authority Chair Bambi Rosario Wyatt did not respond either to an email request from the Times. All right, there you have it. Issues in Yarmouth regarding a proposal to develop housing, that being on an 18.89 acre plot at 506 Forest Road behind the Senior Center in West Yarmouth. Our next article from page 1 has a reference to statewide issues. The headline here says, First Human West Nile Case Confirmed in Massachusetts. This is a USA Today New England Network article. The first human case of West Nile virus has been confirmed in Massachusetts. A man in his 90s in Middlesex County was exposed to West Nile virus, that according to the Massachusetts Department of Health press release. The release said it makes him the first human in Massachusetts to be officially confirmed to have been infected in this year 2026. As a result of this case and WNV, that's West Nile virus, continuing to be detected in mosquitoes across the state, WN risk levels have been elevated to moderate in 70 communities in Barnstable, Berkshire, Bristol, Essex, Franklin, Hampton, Hampshire, Middlesex, Norfolk, Plymouth, and Worcester counties, that according to a department press release. Mosquitoes tested positive for West Nile virus in Worcester and Bolton earlier this month. So here's what you need to know. First of all, what is West Nile virus? Well, the so-called West Nile virus is a mosquito-carried virus that can cause illnesses ranging from a mild fever to more serious diseases like encephalitis or meningitis, that according to the State Department of Health. It was first identified in the United States in 1999, according to, again, the Massachusetts Department of Health. So, what are the symptoms of West Nile virus? Well, luckily, 80% of West Nile infected people tend to feel little to no symptoms. Symptoms may include fever and flu-like illness. In rare cases, more serious illnesses can occur. A smaller number of people who become infected, say maybe 20%, will have symptoms such as a fever, headache, body aches, nausea, vomiting, and sometimes swollen lymph glands. People over 50 are most at risk for having a serious case of the West Nile virus. So what's the treatment if one were to contract the virus? Well, according to the Center for Disease Control, there is no direct treatment for West Nile virus, as antibiotics do not treat viruses. People with severe illness often need to be hospitalized to receive supportive treatment, such as intravenous fluids, pain medication, and nursing care, the CD page for the West Nile virus said. Well, on a more serious note, how often might it be fatal? Well, the CD said about 1 out of 150 people infected with West Nile virus develop a severe and sometimes fatal illness. That's 1 in 150. So how can you prevent getting West Nile virus? Well, according to the State Health Department, anti-mosquito precautions you should take to avoid contracting West Nile virus include these. Avoid mosquito bites when you can by applying a mosquito repellent. Use a repellent with an EPA registered ingredient, and also use oil of lemon, eucalyptus, as a product to deter mosquitoes. Be aware of peak mosquito hours, which are the hours between the darkest period of twilight when the sun sets to the time of sunrise. Mosquito-proofing your home, repairing any holes in your screens, and making sure your screens are tightly attached to all your doors and windows will repel mosquitoes as well. And drain standing water in your home, such as from water on the lids of various bins around your house or various puddles after a rainstorm. So protecting your animals. Owners should also speak with their veterinarian about mosquito repellents approved for use in animals and vaccinations to prevent West Nile virus and EEE. Again, all of these recommendations are according to the Mass Department of Health website. So, friends, avoid those mosquitoes at all costs. Okay, friends, we've now turned to page 3, the Cape and Islands page, and there's a picture of a couple clowns in a parade followed by a golf cart. It says, as the headline of this picture, Main Street Fun. Underneath the picture, it says hundreds of Shriners took over Main Street in Hyannis on August 22nd. The parade included hundreds of Aleppo Shriners from the Northeast Shrine Association, made up of 16 shrine temples from the northeastern United States and Canada. The parade helps bring awareness to the Shriner hospitals. All right, that parade happened in Hyannis on August 20th. The headline for the only article on this particular Cape and Islands page is this: Lobster Pot Off Market. This is by Gwen Friss of the Cape Cod Times Network, and here's the article. Provincetown's landmark seafood restaurant, the Lobster Pot, is no longer on the market for sale, that according to chef and co-owner Tim McNulty. The iconic waterfront view spot, with its large neon sign at 321 Commercial Street, was offered for sale at $14 million in the year 2023, the month of January. That was an exercise to test the waters, McNulty said. He said that earlier this month. John E. Calusi, president of the Premier Commercial, was hired to sell the land, the building, business, equipment, and the brand. The restaurant went on the market late in the day on Tuesday, January 17th of 2023. The next day, he received calls from various potential buyers in New England, the West Coast, and even overseas. The site has national interest and international attention, Calusi told the Cape Cod Times in 2023. There is definitely substantial interest in the property. McNulty said this past August 13th that there were people interested, but they wanted to buy the McNulty family's surrounding properties, which were not included in the $14 million asking price, he said. The two-story, 8,293 square foot building has 2 dining rooms, bars, and a waterfront view of Provincetown Harbor. The Lobster Pot Express in Provincetown and the Lobster and Chowder House on Route 6 in South Wellfleet were not included in the proposed sale. Owner McNulty said the family sold the seasonal Lobster and Chowder House this year to Mario and Laturo, Washington. They have similar food with a full bar. It's a roadside dive that will knock your socks off. A lot of the locals go there now. We trained them, the new owners that is, so the fantastic transition would be easy. They are good friends of ours, and Laturo still works at the Lobster Pot, said McNulty. The McNulty family has owned the Lobster Pot for 47 years, since the family's late matriarch, Joy McNulty, bought the restaurant in 1979. Her sons, Tim and Sean, and her daughter, Julie Nichols, currently own the business. We have a lot invested there in terms of time, heart, and energy, Tim McNulty said. So, for those of you who enjoy the Lobster Pot on Commercial Street in Provincetown, you need not worry about too much of a transition, either in ownership or presentation, as the Lobster Pot has been pulled off the retail for sale market. Nearing the halfway point now of our broadcast, let's turn to the obituaries, and we do have one today. It is of Lorraine Florence Brackett, B-R-A-C-K-E-T, with a dateline of Yarmouthport. Here it is. Lorraine Florence Brackett, age 96, of Yarmouthport, Massachusetts, passed away peacefully at home on July 3rd of this year, 2026, surrounded by her loving family. She was preceded in death by her parents and 7 siblings. She's survived by her husband, Robert, daughter, Cynthia, son, Robert, daughter, Robin, and various grandchildren. Born on June 10, 1930, in Somerville, Massachusetts, Lorraine was the daughter of Eugene and Anna Town. She graduated from Summer High School in 1948. Lorraine met the love of her life, Bob Brackett, at the Ballaroo roller skating rink in Medford. They married in 1953 and moved to Wakefield. Lorraine worked for a time as an executive secretary at Raytheon before having children and moving as a full-time homemaker into her regular home. In the mid-70s, the family left Wakefield and moved to Cape Cod. This was the beginning of a new and happy time for the family. After Bob's retirement, he and Lorraine began spending time in southern Arizona as well, and eventually did move to Arizona full-time in 2004. In 2021, however, they moved back to the Cape, to Heatherwood in Yarmouthport. Lorraine lived out her last years surrounded by family and her new Heatherwood friends. A celebration of Lorraine's life will be held at 11 a.m. on Tuesday, September 29th, at the South Congregational Church on Main Street in Centerville. It will be followed by a reception in the church's fellowship hall. Again, friends, that was the obituary of Lorraine Florence Brackett, of Yarmouthport, who passed away at home on July 3rd at the age of 96. Moving to sports now for just a minute because it has a local interest attached to this particular article. There's a picture of former President Barack Obama, and the headline above the article says, biggest names to hit the links from Barack Obama to Tom Brady. Underneath the picture it says President Barack Obama pauses during a round of golf at Farm Neck Golf Club in Oak Bluffs on August 11th of 2013. That's 13 years ago. But here's the article. Cape Cod and the islands have a deep and rich history of hosting sitting United States presidents, actors, sports legends, and business tycoons on its fairways and greens of various golf courses. Just earlier this month, former President Barack Obama played golf on Martha's Vineyard with two basketball stars, Steph Curry and Jason Tatum. The draw of top courses like Hyannisport Club, Willow Bend Country Club, Sankaty Head Golf Club, Cape Cod National Club, the Ridge Club, Vineyard Golf Club, and more is more than enough to keep them coming back. Next time your tee time takes you to some of the top clubs in Massachusetts, take a moment to think of those big names that have walked the same grass. There are 25 celebrities that have put a peg in the ground on the Cape and Islands. Charles Barkley, former professional athlete and current television commentator. Charles Barkley's golf game has vastly improved since the days of the notable hitch in his golf swing. The former NBA player with the Philadelphia Sixers, the Phoenix Suns, and the Houston Rockets has played at Wiano in Osterville. Barkley, who was part of the iconic Inside the NBA studio show, was an 11-time NBA All-Star and 2-time Olympic gold medalist, and an NBA Most Valuable Player. And I know for a fact, because I know someone who works at Oyster Harbors, as I used to do, that he tipped rather handsomely at the conclusion of his round. Well, Bill Belichick, former coach, of course, of the Patriots, and during Belichick's tenure as the New England Patriots head coach, the team won 6 NFL championships. He's now head coach, as most of you know, at the University of North Carolina. He's a member of the Sankaty Head Golf Club on Nantucket. Michael Bloomberg, businessman and politician. Well, Bloomberg recently teed it up on Martha's Vineyard at the Vineyard Golf Club. Bloomberg is an avid golfer, and he's a majority owner and co-founder of Bloomberg LP, and has risen to one of the richest people in the world with a net worth of $109 billion as of this year. He served as the 109th mayor of New York City from 2002 to 2013. Pat Bradley. She's a golfer, professional golfer. Pat Bradley is a Hyannis resident that has done everything and more for the game of golf in Massachusetts. She won 31 LPGA Tour events, including 6 majors. The World Golf Hall of Fame member won 3 out of the 4 LPA majors in 1986. She's a member of the Hyannisport Golf Club, but she also participates in regional golf events and charity events across Cape Cod. As a side note, I had the opportunity to meet Pat Bradley once, and she was a very gracious and unassuming, very pleasant person. Tom Brady, professional athlete, former, and commentator. Well, Brady needs no introduction, but in case you've forgotten, he's won a record 7 Super Bowls, 6 with the Patriots. He's been his 5-time Super Bowl MVP. He's an avid golfer and would come to Cape for the charity events like the Best Buddies Hyannisport Challenge and Willow Bend's Charity Pro-Am. Steph Curry, Golden State Warriors. Steph Curry will likely go down as the greatest shooter in the National Basketball League history when his career is all over and done with. He holds the all-time record for career three-pointers made and has scored well over 26,000 points in the regular season. He's also a very good golfer, having played in and won the American Century Championship. He recently played alongside former President Barack Obama at the Vineyard Golf Club in August. Jack Eichel, Vegas Golden Knights player. Jack Eichel's put together one heck of a career on the ice as one of the top United States-born players with nearly 700 career regular season points. He won an Olympic gold medal in 2026 with Team USA, and he's played at the Hyannisport Golf Club. Nick Faldo, professional golfer. Sir Nick Faldo is a retired professional golfer and commentator on the Golf Channel who notched 43 professional wins, including 30 European Tour victories. He's teed it up previously at the Willow Bend Country Club in the renowned Willow Bend Children's Charity Pro-Am. Samuel L. Jackson, movie actor. Samuel L. Jackson is one of the recognized actors on screen with roles in Pulp Fiction, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Star Wars, Unbreakable, Glass, and The Incredibles. He has played at the Willow Bend Country Club in the renowned Willow Bend Children's Charity Pro-Am. He has also been spotted vacationing, when not playing golf, on Cape Cod in the summer seasons. John F. Kennedy, obviously former President of the United States. John F. Kennedy is one of the most iconic figures of golf on Cape Cod. During his lifetime, he played regularly at his home course of Hyannisport Club. The Kennedy compound, set on 6 acres of waterfront property, is a stone's throw from the first tee. He was the 35th President of the United States and enjoyed golfing immensely. Charles Koch, businessman and philanthropist. Charles Koch is ranked as the 22nd richest man in the world with an estimated worth of $71.4 billion. He is the co-owner, chairman, and chief executive officer of Koch Industries, and he's played regularly at the Waiata Club as he has a home there as well. Spike Lee, director and actor. Spike Lee might enjoy the 19th hole more than the actual round of golf, but that doesn't stop him from teeing it up at Farm Neck Golf Club. He owns a hole on the 18th hole and is often spotted coming down from the backyard to talk to Barack Obama when he's on the tee sheet. The filmmaker and actor is an Academy Award and British Academy Film Award recipient. Peyton Manning, professional athlete and commentator. Peyton Manning compiled a legendary football career with the Indianapolis Colts and Denver Broncos that included 2 Super Bowls, 5 MVPs, and a Pro Football Hall of Fame induction. He's one of many sports and entertainment figures to participate in the Willow Bend Children's Charity Pro-Am. Another celebrity to enjoy the Cape Links is Rory McIlroy, of course, a professional golfer. Rory McIlroy kept a promise to be at the Willow Bend Children's Pro-Am in 2011, which came one day after he claimed his first major title at the U.S. Open at Congressional Golf Club in the D.C. area. He's a former world number 1. And how about Bill Murray, comedian and actor? From Caddyshack to Ghostbusters, Space Jam to Groundhog Day, and his fun run on Saturday Night Live, Bill Murray probably has made you laugh any number of times. He's also played golf on the course, having played at Martha's Vineyard, and has been a guest at Willow Bend Country Club and the Willow Bend Charity Pro-Am. Greg Norman, professional golfer. Greg Norman is one of the most polarizing golfers to grace the professional fairways. He's known for his aggressive business moves, including the founding of Live Golf. Greg Norman has played at Willow Bend Country Club again in the Women and Children's Charity Pro-Am. And, of course, Barack Obama, 44th President of the U.S., currently has a home on Martha's Vineyard. He's played at the Farm Neck Golf Club on the Vineyard multiple times. the great Bobby Orr of the Boston Bruins. He is Boston Bruins royalty and widely acknowledged as one of the greatest ice hockey players of all time. During a 12-year career, 10 with the Bruins, he won a record 8 consecutive Norris Player trophies as the National Hockey League's best defenseman. He's a longtime Sandwich resident, member and part owner of the Ridge Club in Sandwich, and has played almost annually in the member guest tournament at Oyster Harbors. There you have it, friends. Just a few celebrities who have enjoyed golf on Cape Cod at various courses, of course, many of them being private. All right, friends, we're going to move on to some articles of national interest now. This first headline says, Trump announces hike on Canada auto tariffs. This is a USA Today article with a dateline of Washington, D.C. President Trump said he, in a questionable move, is doubling down on tariffs on imported automobiles and auto parts from Canada, up to a rate of 50%, further escalating a trade war with the United States' northern neighbor and great ally that has erupted over the weekend after negotiations between the two countries collapsed. Trump announced the move in an August 24 post on Truth Social, saying Canada has been ripping off the United States of America for years and accusing Canada of placing ridiculously high tariffs on U.S. farm exports to Canada. He said the new tariff will begin on January the 1st of 2027. Build in the U.S., and there are zero tariffs. Canada will be treated like a state no longer, so said Trump on Truth Social. On trade and in other ways, also, they are among the worst nations in the world to deal with. They feel entitled, and yet we don't need Canada. They need us. That, according to Trump. Trump's latest threat comes after 50% of U.S. tariffs on many other Canadian goods went into effect just after midnight on August 22nd, after his administration was unable to strike a deal with Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney. Democrats seized on the tariffs ahead of the November midterm election, warning of taxes on imports, which will result in American consumers paying even higher cost. After ordering Canada's trade negotiations to return home, Carney of Canada said he would match Trump's tariffs dollar for dollar with retaliatory tariffs to take effect on September 8th. Canada will impose tariffs on U.S. steel, dairy, appliances, agricultural equipment, pulp and paper, and electronics, along with some products the United States previously targeted in Canada. Carney said from Ottawa's Parliament building. The government will release details on its response in the upcoming days, said Carney. We cannot accept what they've offered and will not give in to what they have asked, said Carney. Carney is one of the few global leaders to retaliate against U.S. tariffs, and his pledge has forged new trade and military alliances despite Canada's dependence on the U.S. for nearly 70% of its exports. Trump last year imposed a baseline 25% tariffs on imported automobiles and auto parts, though the rate differs for some trading partners based on deals reached with his administration. Trump, in his social media post, also said he would like Canada's steel tariff to be 50%, but it's already set at 50%. The 50% tariffs that went into effect August 22nd apply to just over 5% of Canadian exports for the U.S., including various goods such as wine, dairy, hockey sticks, and cement. Prime Minister Carney said about $28 billion worth of goods would be tariffed. They do not apply to exempted goods, including energy, potash, fish, and critical minerals. The tariffs do not qualify for preferential treatment under the U.S.-Mexico-Canada Free Trade Agreement, which shielded many Canadian goods from earlier U.S. tariffs. U.S. Trade Representative Jamieson Greer called the breakdown a missed opportunity for Canada to partner with the United States, saying no new talks were planned regarding trade with Canada. Well, friends, as you may well know, hurricane season is upon us, and this next article references that. It says as a headline, forecasters tracking potential tropical storms. Moke, that's M-O-K-E, misses Hawaii but could bring heavy rain. This is a USA Today article, and here it is. Amid the peak of hurricane season, meteorologists at the National Hurricane Center were tracking 9 different storms and potential storms as of early August 24, including 7 in the Pacific Ocean and 2 in the Atlantic. In Hawaii, residents won a bit of a reprieve as a weakening Moke storm was downgraded from a tropical storm to a tropical depression and passed some 300 miles to the south of the islands. The islands, recovering from Hurricane Layla recently, were still forecast to receive heavy rain and tropical storm force gusts related to the passing storm. That, according to the National Weather Service in Honolulu. Wind gusts could reach up to 55 miles per hour over the Big Island, as well as 45 miles per hour over Oahu and Kauai. Parts of the Big Island and eastern Maui were forecast to receive an additional 3 to 6 inches of rain through August 24, bringing the total rainfall portions on the Big Island up to 15 inches. Especially in areas previously affected by Storm Layla, the rain could bring life-threatening flooding and mudslides, again according to the Hurricane Center. This is a storm that should still be taken very seriously, said AccuWeather expert meteorologist Alyssa Glenny. This is a vulnerable area given the severe mudslides, power outages, and flooding of the rain caused by Layla. Meanwhile, Layla entered its 12th day as a tropical storm, still holding on to 65-mile-per-hour winds as it moved through the central Pacific, nearly 1,300 miles to the northwest of Honolulu. Elsewhere in the eastern Pacific, tropical storm Iselle, I-S-E-L-L-E, formed on August the 23rd, well off the Mexican coast. At 5 a.m. on August the 24th, the storm had 60-mile-per-hour winds and was 540 miles southwest of the southern tip of the Baja California Peninsula. Iselle is forecast to briefly hit in hurricane strength as it moves northwesterly without threatening land, then disintegrates into a tropical depression within 5 days. 4 other potential areas are strung out across the Pacific between what remains of Moke, M-O-K-E, and Central America, according to the Hurricane Center. In the Atlantic, which most affects us in Massachusetts, an area of showers and thunderstorms about 400 miles southeast of Bermuda appeared to be getting better organized on August the 23rd and could possibly become a short-lived depression or storm as it moves northward and then northeastward. The Hurricane Center put the chances of the formation at 50% over 48 hours and over 7 days. A tropical wave expected to move off the coast of Africa was getting a little more attention from tropical weather watchers. An associated area of low pressure could form early in the week and eventually become a tropical depression as it moves westwardly at 15 to 20 miles per hour across the eastern and central tropical Atlantic. Although strong winds related to the El Niño in the Pacific are making it hard for big storms to form in the Atlantic, so far this summer, meteorologists warned that hurricanes have formed during past El Niño summers and are not out of the question of being formed again. So the good news, friends, is that there are no pending tropical depressions, storms, or hurricanes heading our way at this particular point. Well, for those of you who have stock in various categories, this next article might be of interest to you. It says the S&P 500 and NASDAQ end down on tech stocks as investors weigh Iranian moves. This is a Reuters news agency article with a dateline of New York City. Here's the article. The S&P 500 and NASDAQ ended lower on August 24th, pulled down by technology stocks as investors weighed fresh U.S. economic pressure against Iran and braced for a week that includes NVIDIA earnings and closely watched inflation reports. The Trump administration announced on August 24 a possible expansion of sanctions on countries doing business with Iran as part of what is billed as an economic D-Day, but stopped short of actually imposing penalties on such countries. Chip stocks sold off, dragging the Philadelphia SE Semiconductor Index lower. NVIDIA dropped 2.9%, Micron Technology fell 5.8%, and Broadcom slid another 2.6%, pressuring the S&P 500 Technology Index. Sentiment for technology firms was also hit by growing political opposition to AI data centers. Texas Governor Greg Abbott said data center companies, quote, dug their own grave, end quote, and deserve the backlash they're facing after failing to win community support. This month, Abbott ordered a pause in approvals of new data center projects, although the state's grid interconnection process, citing concerns that a surge in electric demand could threaten reliability at a time when opposition to the projects is growing. The biggest worry we have is the hawkish rhetoric that we're starting to hear from politicians on AI and data centers. The chief equity strategist at Wells Fargo has said, we've been highlighting that as a big risk heading into the midterms. The Dow Jones Industrial Average rose 140.15 points, or 0.26%, to $53,417.16. Concerns over ballooning government debt had pushed the 30-year yield on a 19-year high before the Treasury announced support measures last week. CNBC reported on August 24th that Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent could tap the department's near $1 trillion general account to help fund bond buybacks, yet the 30-year-old Treasury yield remained above the 5% threshold. The turbulence has sharpened focus on Federal Reserve Chair Kevin Warsh's speech at the Jackson Hole Symposium on August 28th, where investors will look for clues on policymakers' reading of the Treasury's rescue efforts. Quarterly results from AI giant NVIDIA are expected to be another key catalyst for markets. Any sign of slowing growth could reignite concerns over stretched valuations. NVIDIA needs to impress in order to keep one leg of the stock market stable, said Warsh, and needs to provide clarity on interest rates in order to keep the other leg stable. Separately, President Trump warned that tariffs on cars, trucks, and automobile parts from Canada would be increased to 50% starting January 1st. After the trade talks collapsed over the weekend, automakers Ford and General Motors fell 3.3% and 1.1% respectively, while trucking company J.B. Hunt Transportation dropped to about 5.7%. Declining issues outnumbered advances by 1.08 to 1 ratio on the New York Stock Exchange. There were 158 new highs and 116 new lows on the NYSE. On NASDAQ, 1,955 stocks rose and 2,934 fell, as declining issues outnumbered advancers by a 1.5 to 1 ratio. All right, that concludes that article, my friend. Okay, friends, turning now to some baseball standings, and how do your beloved Boston Red Sox stand? Well, they're still in third place in the American League East behind the league-leading Tampa Bay Rays and second place New York Yankees. The Yankees are behind the Rays by 3.5 games. The Red Sox are behind by 6 games and still very much a playoff contender. In the American League Central, the White Sox, if you can believe that, lead that division over the Cleveland Guardians. The Cleveland team, formerly known as the Indians, of course, that team is 2.5 games behind, and the Twins in third place, 4.5 games behind. In the American League West, the Texas Rangers lead that division by a half game over the Houston Astros. The Mariners are 3 games out of first place and in third place in the Western Division. Well, friends, it looks like we have time for one other article. Let's read this one. Trump bought SpaceX shares in June. The president invested up to $550,000, so the disclosure says. This is a Reuters news agency article with a dateline of Washington, D.C. President Donald Trump invested as much as $50,000 in Elon Musk's SpaceX in June. That, according to a public financial disclosure, giving him a financial stake in a major government contractor run by his former advisor and close friend, Elon Musk. He bought between $15,000 and $50,000 in shares on June 23rd, according to a financial disclosure signed by him on August 12th and made public on August 22nd. The purchase was part of more than 1,000 stock trades the president made in June. SpaceX priced the biggest ever U.S. initial public offering on June 12th, vaulting the space satellite and AI provider at $1.77 trillion in worth. In a statement to Reuters, White House spokesman Davis Ingle said that third-party financial institutions independently manage the president's portfolio and replicate the recognized indexes such as the Schwab 100. Neither President Trump nor any other member of his family has any ability to direct, influence, or provide input regarding how those sales are made, and the portfolio is invested when investments are bought or sold. Trump's investment in SpaceX adds a new financial link between the president and Musk's rocket company at a time when the administration is making decisions that could affect the firm's futures. SpaceX is a U.S. military contractor and often seeks approvals from federal agencies. Trump, on August 20, directed his team to help drastically increase the number of U.S. commercial space launches. SpaceX is a dominant player in that sector. U.S. Small Business Administration leader and Trump cabinet member Kelly Loeffler earned millions from SpaceX's IPO, Reuters has previously reported. Reuters could not immediately determine the precise amount of Trump's investment because federal office officials use ranges to declare the value of their assets on their financial disclosure forms. All right, friends, that brings us to the conclusion of today's broadcast of the Tuesday, August 25th edition of the Cape Cod Times. This has been your volunteer reader, Doug Fagan, and it's been my pleasure and privilege to read for you today, and I look forward to doing same next Tuesday at the same time. Till then, my friends, enjoy this great Cape Cod weather. Stay happy, stay healthy, and so long for now.